The notification pings on my phone at 3 a.m. Tokyo time, and I nearly drop my coffee all over the hotel's marble floor. It's a bank alert. A deposit of $285,000 has just hit my parents' joint account. My blood turns to ice water. I'm staring at my phone screen in disbelief when the second notification comes through. A text from my sister Sofia. OMG Maya, Mom and Dad are the best. Just booked our dream trip to the Maldives with the girls. 5-star resort, private villa, the works. Thank you for being so understanding about the guitar situation. Guitar airplane desert. Guitar situation? My hands are trembling now. I dial my parents' number, but it goes straight to voicemail. Then I call again. And again. Finally, on the fourth try, my mother picks up. Maya, honey, it's so late there. Mom, my voice is deadly calm. Where is my Gibson? The silence stretches so long I wonder if the call dropped. Then I hear my father's voice in the background. Just tell her, Carmen. She was going to find out anyway. We sold it, Mija. Your father found a collector who... I hang up. My $300,959 Gibson Les Paul. My grandfather's dream, my most precious possession, my connection to everything that mattered, is gone. Sold while I'm 7,000 miles away, closing the biggest deal of my career. But here's what my family doesn't know. I've been 10 steps ahead of them for months, and they just walked straight into the most expensive mistake of their lives. My name is Maya Alvarez, and I'm 29 years old. To most people, I'm just another finance professional in Manhattan's concrete jungle. Sharp suits, sharper spreadsheets, and a portfolio that makes my contemporaries green with envy. But strip away the corporate armor, and I'm still that 8-year-old girl sitting cross-legged on her grandfather's workshop floor, watching him restore vintage guitars with the reverence of a monk handling sacred texts. Abuelo Miguel was a master luthier who emigrated from Spain in the 1960s with nothing but his tools and an impossible dream: to own a 1959 Gibson Les Paul standard. Mija, he'd tell me, his weathered hands caressing the neck of whatever instrument he was working on. This guitar, the 59 Les Paul, it's not just wood and metal, it's the Holy Grail. Jimmy Page / Bonamassa, they all worship at its altar. He never got his Gibson. Cancer took him when I was 16, leaving behind a workshop full of beautiful instruments and a granddaughter with calloused fingertips and a heart full of unfinished dreams. My parents, Carmen and Roberto Alvarez, never understood the guitar thing. Dad's a pragmatic insurance adjuster who sees dollar signs before art, and Mom's a high school guidance counselor who thinks music is a nice hobby, but not a real career. They raised me and my younger sister Sofia in a comfortable middle-class bubble in Queens, where financial stability trumped artistic passion every single time. Sofia, now 26, inherited their practical mindset but none of their work ethic. She's bounced between jobs: social media coordinator, boutique assistant, freelance wellness consultant, never staying anywhere long enough to build actual skills. She's beautiful, charming, and has mastered the art of making her failures sound like adventures. My parents eat it up. Me, I learned early that if I wanted something, I'd have to earn it myself. While Sofia was posting Instagram stories from weekend beach trips funded by Mom and Dad, I was working 3 jobs through college: tutoring, bookkeeping for local businesses, and yes, giving guitar lessons to kids whose parents actually believed in nurturing their children's talents. I chose finance not because I loved it, but because I was good with numbers and it paid well enough to fund my real passion: hunting for vintage guitars. Every bonus, every raise, every profitable quarter went into my collection. I started small: a 1970s Fender Telecaster here, a vintage Martin acoustic there. But I was always building toward the dream Abuelo never achieved. 3 years ago, I got my break. I'd landed a position at Henderson and Associates, a mid-tier investment firm where my analytical skills and bilingual abilities made me indispensable. When I closed a particularly complex merger, my boss handed me a bonus check that made my hands shake: $320,000. I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. Finding a 1959 Gibson Les Paul in good condition is like finding a unicorn that also happens to be an accountant. Theoretically possible, but don't hold your breath. These guitars were only made for a few years before Gibson discontinued the model, thinking it was a failure. Fewer than 2,000 were ever produced, and most are either in museums or the hands of collectors who'd rather die than sell. It took me 8 months of networking, calling dealers, and haunting vintage guitar forums before I found her. She belonged to the estate of a jazz musician who'd bought her new in 1959 and treated her like a sacred relic. Sunburst finish, original pickups, all the paperwork to prove authenticity. The moment I held her, I swear I could feel Abuelo's spirit singing through the strings. $300,000. It was everything I had, plus a small loan against my 401k. But when I signed that check, I wasn't just buying a guitar. I was fulfilling a promise to a man who taught me that some dreams are worth any sacrifice. I named her Esperanza, Hope. My family's reaction was predictable. Dad nearly choked on his beer when I showed them the purchase receipt. You spent what on a guitar? Maya, that's a down payment on a house. Mom was more diplomatic but equally baffled. Mija, it's beautiful, but maybe you could have found something similar for less. And Sofia, she just rolled her eyes and made some comment about how I was obsessed with dead people's stuff. Only my boyfriend Luca understood. He's a session musician with an ear for quality instruments, and when I played Esperanza for him, his eyes actually teared up. Maya, this is... She's singing. I can hear the history in every note. That's when I knew I'd found not just the right guitar, but the right person. Luca Di Marco is everything my practical family thinks I should avoid. A freelance musician with irregular income, calloused hands, and dreams bigger than his bank account. But he loves music the way I learned to love it from Abuelo, with reverence and passion and complete disregard for anyone who thinks art is frivolous. We've been together for 2 years now, and he's the only person who truly gets why Esperanza means so much to me. He's also the only person I trust enough to leave her with when work takes me away. Which brings me to Tokyo. Henderson and Associates had been courting a Japanese investment firm for over a year, and when they finally agreed to meet, they requested me specifically. My reputation for handling international clients had reached across the Pacific, and they wanted the woman who'd closed 3 major deals with European firms in the past 18 months. The Tokyo trip was supposed to be my career-defining moment, 2 weeks of negotiations that could secure my promotion to senior partner and set me up for life. Everything I'd worked for since college was riding on these meetings. I should have been suspicious when my family suddenly became so supportive. Go get them, Mija, Mom had said, hugging me extra tight at JFK. We're so proud of you. Dad had actually offered to drive me to the airport, something he'd never done for any of my business trips before. You focus on your work, Maya. Don't worry about anything here at home. And Sofia had been uncharacteristically sweet, even helping me pack and asking detailed questions about my meetings. You're going to crush it, sis. This is your moment. I remember thinking how nice it was that my family was finally recognizing my achievements. How naive could I be? The first week in Tokyo went perfectly. The Japanese executives were impressed with my research, charmed by my attention to cultural nuances, and by Friday, we were already drafting preliminary agreements. I was walking on air, texting Luca updates, and feeling like everything in my life was finally clicking into place. If only I'd known what was happening 7,000 miles away while I was living my professional dreams. The morning of my second week in Tokyo, I wake up to 17 missed calls from Luca. My heart hammers as I call him back, expecting some emergency, an accident, a family crisis, something that would explain the panic in his voice when he finally answers. Maya, thank God, I've been trying to reach you for hours. What's wrong? Are you okay? It's your family. His voice is strained, like he's been awake all night. They came by yesterday while I was at a recording session. Used the spare key you gave them for emergencies. When I got home, Esperanza was gone. The hotel room tilts sideways. What do you mean gone? They took her, Maya, your parents and Sofia. Left a note saying they were handling some business and would explain everything later. I tried calling them, but they won't answer my calls. I sink onto the edge of the bed, my professional composure cracking. Did you call the police? I tried, but technically they didn't break in. They had a key. And the note says you gave them permission to move your music equipment while you were away. Maya, what the hell is going on? I don't answer because I'm already pulling up my banking app with shaking fingers. My parents don't have access to my accounts, but I set up alerts on their finances years ago when Dad had his heart attack and I was managing their emergency expenses. The alerts are still active, and what I see makes my blood freeze. A deposit, yesterday afternoon, $285,000 from something called Vintage Treasures Collectibles. They sold her. My family sold Esperanza while I was in Tokyo and used the money to fund what I now realize was Sofia's long-planned vacation with her friends. The Maldives trip wasn't a spontaneous gift, it was a calculated theft. I call my parents' house. It rings and rings before going to voicemail. I try Mom's cell, same thing. Dad's phone goes straight to voicemail like it's been turned off. Finally, I call Sofia. She answers on the first ring, and I can hear laughter and clinking glasses in the background. Maya, how's Tokyo? We're having the most amazing time. Where is my guitar, Sofia? The background noise quiets. Oh, that. Yeah, Mom and Dad handled that. Honestly, Maya, it was just collecting dust, and the money is being put to much better use. We're staying in this incredible villa that you stole from me. My voice is so calm it scares me. You went into Luca's apartment and stole my property to pay for your vacation. Stole? Maya, don't be so dramatic, it's a guitar. And technically, Mom and Dad sold it, not me. They said something about you needing to learn financial responsibility. Spending $300,000 on an old guitar was pretty crazy, sis. I hang up before I say something that will end up in a police report. For the next hour, I sit on my hotel bed, staring out at Tokyo's skyline while my world collapses 7,000 miles away. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed for, reduced to funding my sister's Instagram stories from the Maldives. But then something shifts. The grief transforms into something sharper, more focused. I've spent my entire adult life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who puts family harmony above her own needs. I've swallowed my pride, supported their poor decisions, and enabled their lack of boundaries because I thought that's what good daughters do. They just taught me that love without respect is worthless. I call Luca back, he answers immediately. Maya, I'm so sorry. I should have been there, should have. This isn't your fault. My voice is steady now, professional. I need you to do something for me. Remember that replica you bought last year? The one that looks exactly like Esperanza. Luca had found an incredibly detailed replica of a 1959 Les Paul at a guitar show. Same sunburst finish. Aged to look vintage. Even came with fake authentication papers as a novelty item. He'd bought it as a conversation piece for his studio, joking that he could finally own a Les Paul without selling his kidney. Yeah, it's here in the studio. Why? Is it still in the case? The one that looks like my original Gibson case? Yes, but Maya, what are you? Don't touch it, don't move it. I'll explain everything when I get home, but right now I need you to trust me. And Luca, start documenting everything. Photos, recordings, anything that proves what happened while I was gone. After I hang up, I pace my hotel room for 20 minutes, my mind racing through possibilities. Then I call my lawyer. Sarah Chen has been my attorney since I started making serious money. She handles contracts, estate planning, and the occasional nasty surprise that comes with success. She also happens to be a former prosecutor with a deep dislike for family members who think blood relation equals financial entitlement. Maya, isn't it like 2 your time? Sarah, I need you to file a police report for theft, and I need you to start documenting everything for a civil suit. I explain the situation, the spare key, the unauthorized entry, the sale of my property without consent. Sarah's voice gets progressively icier as I talk. Maya, this is clear-cut theft. The fact that they're family members doesn't change the legal reality. Do you want to pursue criminal charges? I stare out at Tokyo's neon lights, thinking about Abuelo's work-worn hands, about all the dreams deferred and promises broken. Yes, all of it, criminal and civil. What's your proof of ownership? Purchase receipt, authentication papers, insurance documentation. I have everything. And you said your boyfriend has evidence of the unauthorized entry. Photos, video, timestamps, Luca's thorough. Sarah's quiet for a moment. Maya, before we proceed, are you sure about this? Going after family can get messy. I think about Sofia's laugh when she dismissed my old guitar, about my parents' calculated silence, about the way they planned this betrayal while hugging me goodbye at the airport. They made their choice, Sarah. Now I'm making mine. The next morning, I'm sitting in a conference room with 6 Japanese executives, negotiating the deal that's supposed to define my career. But my phone keeps buzzing with updates from Sarah and Luca, each message adding another layer to the web my family has woven around themselves. The guitar shop that bought Esperanza, Vintage Treasures Collectibles, is run by someone named Marcus Webb, who apparently specializes in high-end vintage instruments. Sarah's initial inquiry reveals that he paid $285,000 for what he believed was an authenticated 1959 Gibson Les Paul, complete with original case and documentation. Documentation that my parents somehow forged or fabricated. During a break in negotiations, I call Luca again. Maya, I've been thinking about this all night. Your parents came here with a story. They said you were in financial trouble and needed to sell the guitar quietly to avoid embarrassing yourself at work. They had a key, knew exactly where everything was stored, and even brought their own story about why I wasn't supposed to contact you directly. They planned this. For weeks, Maya, maybe months. Your mom kept asking about your work schedule, when your next big trip was. Sofia even asked me about the guitar's case, said she was thinking about getting you some kind of custom display stand as a gift. The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't impulsive or desperate, it was premeditated theft, carefully orchestrated for maximum impact and minimum resistance. They waited until I was literally on the other side of the world, incommunicado for most of the day due to time zones and business meetings. They used my spare key, my trust, and my boyfriend's respectful assumption that family emergencies should be handled discreetly. And they were counting on me being too embarrassed, too conflict-averse, or too family-loyal to fight back. They miscalculated. By the time I hang up with Luca, my Japanese clients are returning to the conference room, ready to finalize our deal. I slide my phone into my purse, straighten my blazer, and smile at the men who are about to make me very wealthy. Gentlemen, let's finish this. Because I have a family to deal with when I get home. I land at JFK 13 days later with a signed contract worth $2.8 million in fees, a promotion to senior partner, and a police report number that's about to turn my family's world upside down. Luca meets me at baggage claim, and the look on his face tells me everything I need to know about how the last week has gone. They know, he says, wrapping me in a hug that feels like an anchor. Sarah served them with papers yesterday. Your parents have been calling nonstop, leaving these interesting voicemails. We drive to my apartment in relative silence, the weight of what's coming settling over both of us. I've spent 13 days in Tokyo planning this moment, running scenarios, imagining confrontations. But nothing quite prepares you for the reality of declaring war on your own family. My phone has 47 missed calls. I pour a glass of wine, sit on my couch, and start listening to voicemails. The progression tells the story of the last week like a time-lapse of familial destruction. Message 1, 8 days ago. Maya Mija, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding about the guitar situation. Call me back when you get this. Message 12, 6 days ago. Maya, your father is very upset about these legal papers. We don't understand why you're involving lawyers in a family matter. This is getting out of hand. Message 23, 4 days ago. Maya, this is ridiculous. We're family. We can work this out without all this legal nonsense. You're being completely unreasonable. Message 35, 2 days ago. Maya, please call us back. Sofia had to cancel her trip because of all this drama you're causing. She's devastated. Is this really what you want? Message 47, this morning. Maya, your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of the stress you're putting him through. I hope you're happy. This is not how we raised you. The evolution from guilt to anger to victimization is so textbook it's almost funny. Almost. Luca sits beside me, his guitar-calloused hand warm on my shoulder. Want to hear the best part? They've been calling me too, asking me to talk sense into you, and explaining how I'm clearly manipulating you against your own family. What did you tell them? That Maya Alvarez doesn't get manipulated by anyone, and they should have thought about family loyalty before they committed felony theft. I love this man. My doorbell rings at 8 p.m. I check the security camera and see my parents standing in the hallway, looking older and more frail than I remember. Mom's clutching Dad's arm like he might collapse, and for a moment, I almost feel sorry for them. Then, I remember the $285,000 they stole from me to fund Sofia's vacation. I open the door but don't invite them in. Maya, Dad looks exhausted. We need to talk. Talk to my lawyer. Mija, please, Mom's voice breaks. We're family, we can fix this. You stole from me, Mom. While I was working in Tokyo, you broke into Luca's apartment and stole my property. There's nothing to fix, there are only consequences. Dad's face hardens. We didn't steal anything. We sold an overpriced guitar to help you learn some financial responsibility. $300,000 for a piece of wood? Maya, we raised you better than that. The audacity is breathtaking. You raised me to work hard for what I want, to respect other people's property, and to take responsibility for my actions. Apparently, you didn't learn those lessons yourselves. We're your parents. Mom's tears are real, but I'm not moved. We sacrificed everything for you and Sofia. We put you through college, supported your career. And I've been grateful for every bit of it. I've helped with your mortgage, Dad's medical bills, your car payments. I've been sending money to this family for years while building my own life. But gratitude doesn't give you ownership of my property. Luca appears behind me, a quiet presence that my parents immediately notice. Dad's eyes narrow. This is his influence, isn't it? Maya, before you met this musician, you understood family loyalty. Leave him out of this. No, Maya, Luca says calmly. Let them talk. I want to hear how they justify theft as family loyalty. Mom looks between us, desperation creeping into her voice. Maya, we know you love that guitar, but Sofia needed. Sofia needed what? A vacation? A 5-star resort while I'm working 18-hour days in Tokyo to build the career that's been supporting this family for years. It's not about the vacation, Dad explodes. It's about you throwing away money on ridiculous purchases while your sister struggles to find her path. Do you know how hard it is for her, watching you succeed while she's still figuring out her life? And there it is, the truth that's been lurking under all the excuses and justifications. So you stole from me to make Sofia feel better about herself. Mom reaches for my hand, but I step back. Maya, you have so much. The guitar was just sitting there and we thought. You thought you could take something that didn't belong to you and redistribute it according to your idea of fairness. That's not family loyalty, Mom. That's theft with a self-righteous justification. We'll pay you back, Dad says quickly. Every penny, we just need time to. With what money? You spent it on Sofia's vacation, it's gone. The silence stretches uncomfortably. Finally, Mom whispers, the guitar buyer? He could give it back if we explained. I almost laugh. Mom, do you have any idea what you've done? You sold him what you claimed was a $300,000 vintage guitar with authentication papers. When he finds out it's a fraud, he's not just going to want his money back. He's going to want damages. You didn't just steal from me. You committed fraud against a legitimate business. Dad's face goes white. What are you talking about? The guitar you sold isn't Esperanza. It's Luca's replica, worth about $800. The real Esperanza has been in a safety deposit box for 3 months. Comment your city and tell me, have you ever had to teach your family a harsh lesson about boundaries? What would you do in Maya's situation? The revelation hits them like a physical blow. Mom actually sways on her feet, and Dad grabs the doorframe for support. That's impossible, Mom whispers. We took it from the apartment, it was in the case with all the papers. Luca's been helping me protect my investment. We've been rotating between the replica and the real guitar for months, ever since you started asking so many questions about my expensive hobby. Luca nods. The authentication papers you found were photocopies I made for insurance purposes. The real documentation is in Maya's safety deposit box with the actual guitar. Dad's voice is hollow, so the man who bought it. Paid $285,000 for a fake, I finish. A fake you represented as authentic. In legal terms, that's fraud, felony fraud. Mom starts crying in earnest now. Maya, we didn't know, we would never. You would never what? Steal from me? Because that's exactly what you did. The fact that you stole the wrong thing doesn't change the intent or the crime. We have to fix this, Dad says, but his voice has lost all authority. We have to call the buyer, explain. You have to do nothing, I cut him off. I have to fix this, just like I fix everything else in this family. My lawyer is already in contact with Marcus Webb. He's surprisingly understanding about the situation, probably because he's dealt with family theft before. What does that mean? Mom asks. It means he's willing to work with us on restitution rather than pressing additional fraud charges. But that's contingent on full cooperation and accountability from everyone involved. I let that sink in before continuing. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to plead guilty to the theft charges. You're going to cooperate fully with returning Mr. Webb's money plus damages. And you're going to attend family therapy to address whatever underlying issues made you think this was acceptable behavior. Maya, we can't afford. You'll figure it out the same way I figured out how to buy a $300,000 guitar, by working for it, saving for it, and making sacrifices. What you won't do is ask me for help, because that well is permanently dry. Dad's face flushes with anger. So that's it? You're abandoning your family over a guitar. I'm protecting myself from family members who think love gives them the right to steal from me. There's a difference. Maya, Mom pleads, we love you. We made a mistake, but we love you. Love without respect is just possession, Mom, and I'm not anyone's property. They leave without another word, and I close the door on 29 years of putting family harmony above my own boundaries. But the night isn't over. An hour later, my phone rings. It's Sofia calling from the Maldives. Maya, what the hell is wrong with you? No hello, no acknowledgement of the chaos she helped create. Just immediate offense that I'm not quietly accepting being robbed. Hello, Sofia, how's your stolen vacation? It's not stolen. Mom and Dad explained everything. You're being completely ridiculous about this whole thing. Really? Which part is ridiculous? The theft, the fraud, or the part where you're calling me from a vacation funded by stealing my property? It's a guitar, Maya. A stupid, overpriced guitar that you never even play. I put the phone on speaker so Luca can hear this. He shakes his head in disgust. Sofia, it's my property. Whether I play it, display it, or use it as a very expensive paperweight is irrelevant. It belongs to me, and you had no right to it. God, you're so selfish. Do you know how hard it is being your sister? Perfect Maya with her perfect career and her perfect investments. Some of us aren't financial geniuses, Maya. Some of us need help from family. Help, you mean theft? I mean support, the kind of support families are supposed to give each other. I've been supporting this family for years, Sofia. Financially, emotionally, practically. What I haven't done is enable your refusal to build an adult life. So this is punishment. You're punishing me for not being as successful as you. I'm holding you accountable for participating in theft. There's a difference. Sofia's voice turns vicious. You know what? Fine. Keep your precious guitar and your precious boyfriend and your precious career. But don't expect me to pretend we're sisters anymore. You chose money over family. I chose boundaries over enabling. If you can't tell the difference, that's your problem to solve. She hangs up, and I realize I feel lighter than I have in years. Luca wraps his arms around me from behind. How are you doing? Honestly, I feel like I just woke up from a really long, really exhausting dream. Any regrets? I think about it seriously. About the family dinners that will now be awkward or non-existent. About the relationships that may never recover. About the little girl who just wanted her family to be proud of her. None, I say, and I mean it. I just wish I'd done this sooner. The next morning brings a call from my Aunt Alina, Mom's older sister. She's the family matriarch, the one everyone calls when there's drama or crisis. I haven't spoken to her in months. Maya Mija, I heard about the situation with your parents. What did they tell you? That they made a mistake and you're being unforgiving. I wait, but I also talked to your cousin David, who's a police officer. He explained what theft and fraud charges actually mean. David is 2 years older than me, steady and practical. If Alina called him, she wanted the legal reality, not the emotional manipulation. What do you think I should do, Tia? Alina sighs. I think your grandparents didn't flee Spain and work themselves to death in American factories, so their grandchildren could steal from each other. I think you're right. I also think your parents have been enabling Sofia's irresponsibility for too long, and someone needed to draw a line. Even if it destroys the family. Mija, a family that operates on theft and manipulation is already destroyed. You're just making it visible. This is why Alina has always been my favorite relative. Will you talk to them? I ask. I already did. Your mother cried, your father made excuses, and Sofia hung up on me when I told her stealing from your sister wasn't helping family. So now I'm talking to you. And I'm telling you that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Some people only learn respect through consequences. After we hang up, I feel something I haven't experienced in weeks. Family support that doesn't come with conditions or expectations. What would you rate this story so far? 0-10? And tell me, do you think Maya's being too harsh or not harsh enough? The test results are in. Out of my entire extended family, one person, Alina, actually understands that theft is wrong regardless of blood relation. Everyone else wants me to prioritize family harmony over personal boundaries. It's clarifying in the most heartbreaking way possible. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in Sarah Chen's law office with a stack of paperwork that represents the complete unraveling of my family's comfortable delusions. Across from us, my parents and their hastily retained attorney, a tired-looking man named Rodriguez who clearly wishes he was handling a simple divorce instead of a family theft case. The past 2 weeks have been educational for everyone involved. Marcus Webb, the guitar collector who bought Luca's replica, turned out to be surprisingly decent about the whole thing. As it happens, he's dealt with family theft situations before. Apparently, it's more common in the vintage instrument world than you'd think. Desperate relatives stealing valuable guitars from collectors and musicians happens often enough that he has a standard protocol. Mrs. Alvarez, he'd told my mother during their uncomfortable phone conversation, in 30 years of buying vintage instruments, I've seen every variation of family drama you can imagine. The good news is that your daughter is handling this professionally instead of emotionally. The bad news, from my parents' perspective, was everything else. Sarah slides a document across the conference table. This is the full accounting of damages and restitution. Rodriguez, my parents' lawyer, picks it up and goes visibly pale. Ms. Chen, this seems extensive. Theft tends to have extensive consequences, Sarah replies coolly. Let me break it down. $285,000 in restitution to Mr. Webb for the purchase price. $50,000 in damages for his time, travel costs to authenticate the fraud, and legal fees. $15,000 in storage and insurance costs while the situation gets resolved. And $25,000 to cover Maya's legal expenses. Mom makes a choking sound. $375,000? We don't have that kind of money. You should have thought of that before you committed felony theft and fraud, Sarah says matter-of-factly. But Mr. Webb is offering a payment plan option. Rodriguez looks over the terms. This would require monthly payments of $8,000 for 5 years. Plus interest, Sarah adds. Dad, who's been silent through most of this meeting, finally speaks up. We'll have to sell the house. That's one option, I say. It's the first thing I've said since we sat down, and my voice is steady, professional. You could also get second jobs, liquidate your retirement accounts, or ask Sofia to contribute since she benefited from the theft. Maya, Mom whispers, you can't be serious about this. I'm completely serious. You stole from me, committed fraud against a business owner, and apparently planned this while I was out of the country building the career that's been subsidizing your lifestyle for years. These are the consequences. Rodriguez clears his throat. Ms. Alvarez, perhaps there's room for negotiation. There is, I interrupt, full accountability, complete restitution, and family therapy for everyone involved. Those are my terms. And if we refuse, Sarah smiles, and it's not a friendly expression. Then we proceed with the criminal case. Mr. Webb files his own fraud charges, and instead of payment plans, we're talking about prison time. The silence in the room is deafening. Finally, Dad asks, "What does full accountability mean?" I lean forward. "It means you admit what you did was wrong, not misguided, not a mistake, but wrong. It means you take responsibility for the consequences without expecting me to fix them for you. And it means you understand that our relationship is fundamentally changed unless and until you prove you can respect boundaries." Mom starts crying again. "Maya, we raised you, we sacrificed." "Stop," my voice cuts through her tears like a blade. "Every time you start that sentence, you're trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty for enforcing consequences. It's not working anymore." "But we're family. Family members don't steal from each other. What you did made you criminals first and family second." Rodriguez shuffles his papers. "Ms. Alvarez, your parents are prepared to accept the restitution terms and attend counseling. Surely that demonstrates their commitment to making this right?" "Their commitment would have been not stealing from me in the first place. This is just damage control." Sarah taps her pen against her legal pad. "There's also the matter of Sofia's involvement." All eyes turn to me. This is the moment I've been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Sofia was a knowing beneficiary of stolen property. She actively participated in planning the theft and used the proceeds for her vacation. Under the law, that makes her an accessory. Dad's face goes ashen. "Maya, you can't be serious about going after your sister." "Why not? She certainly didn't hesitate to go after my property. She didn't know the guitar was worth so much. She knew it wasn't hers." I pull out my phone and scroll to a screenshot. Here's the text she sent me from the Maldives. "Thanks for being so understanding about the guitar situation." She knew exactly what happened, Dad. She just didn't care because she was benefiting from it. Mom looks between Sarah and me with growing panic. "What does this mean for Sofia?" Sarah answers, "It means she can either cooperate fully with restitution, including contributing her portion of the stolen proceeds, or she can face her own criminal charges." "She spent the money," Dad protests. "She can't give back what she doesn't have." "Then she can work to earn it back, just like you're going to have to do," I reply. "Personal responsibility is a family value, right? Time for Sofia to learn it." Rodriguez looks like he wants to be anywhere else. "And if all parties comply with these terms?" Then Maya agrees not to pursue additional criminal charges beyond the current theft case, Sarah says. "The existing charges will proceed, but the family cooperation will be noted favorably by the prosecutor." "What kind of criminal penalties are we looking at?" Mom asks quietly. Sarah consults her notes. "For the theft and fraud charges as they stand, probably probation and community service for first-time offenders. The judge will take family circumstances and restitution into account." "And if we don't cooperate?" Then Maya pursues this to the full extent of the law. Mr. Webb presses his own fraud charges, and we're talking about potential jail time. The room falls silent except for Mom's quiet sobbing. Finally, Dad speaks. "What about family therapy? What does that involve?" This is my opening. I've been preparing for this part. "It means we work with a professional to address the underlying issues that made you think stealing from me was acceptable behavior. It means examining the family dynamics that enabled Sofia's irresponsibility and your financial dependence on my success. And it means learning to respect boundaries instead of trampling them whenever it's convenient." "Maya," Mom says through her tears, "we love you. We made a terrible mistake, but we love you." "I know you do, but love without respect is just emotional manipulation, and I'm done being manipulated." Dad's jaw tightens. "So what you're saying is, we do this your way or else?" "I'm saying you face the consequences of your choices. What happens next is up to you." Rodriguez whispers something to my parents. They have a brief, heated conversation before Dad turns back to us. We'll accept the terms, all of them, including Sofia's participation. We'll talk to her. No, I say firmly. She accepts responsibility for her part, or she faces her own charges. I'm not negotiating with her through you anymore. Sarah makes notes on her legal pad. I'll need confirmation from Sofia directly within 48 hours, or we proceed with accessory charges. As we're wrapping up the meeting, Mom reaches across the table toward me. Maya, I need you to know, we never meant to hurt you. I look at her hand, then at her face. Mom, intent doesn't erase impact. You hurt me anyway. Can you forgive us? Eventually, maybe, but forgiveness and trust are different things. You'll have to earn trust back, and that's going to take a lot longer than you think. As we leave Sarah's office, my parents look older and more fragile than I've ever seen them. For a moment, I almost feel guilty about the hard line I'm taking. Then I remember the bank alert at 3 a.m. in Tokyo, and the feeling passes. That evening, Luca and I are having dinner at home when my phone rings. It's Sofia, calling from New York. Apparently, she cut her Maldives trip short when she learned about the criminal charges. Maya, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer. Maya, please, just 5 minutes, I'm downstairs. I look at Luca, who shrugs. Your call. I buzz her up, and a few minutes later, Sofia is standing in my living room, looking like she hasn't slept in days. The golden tan from her stolen vacation makes the dark circles under her eyes more pronounced. Maya, this has gone too far. Has it? Because from where I stand, it hasn't gone far enough. You're talking about sending our parents to jail. I'm talking about holding them accountable for stealing from me. If that includes jail time, that's a consequence of their choices, not mine. Sofia paces across my living room. Maya, I know you're angry. I'm not angry, Sofia. Angry would be emotional, I'm calculated. What does that mean? It means I've spent 2 weeks thinking about this situation objectively, and I've decided that enabling your behavior and Mom and Dad's boundary violations isn't helping anyone. So you're going to destroy our family instead. I stand up. Our family destroyed itself when 3 of its members conspired to steal from the 4th. I'm just making sure there are consequences. Maya, I'll pay you back. Whatever my share of the vacation cost, I'll work it off. Your share of a stolen vacation is the entire vacation, Sofia. You were the primary beneficiary of their theft. That's not fair. I didn't know they were going to steal your guitar. But you knew something was wrong. You helped them plan it. You asked Luca strategic questions about where things were stored. And when they told you they'd handled the guitar situation, you didn't ask questions because you didn't want to know the answers. Sofia sinks onto my couch, and for the first time in this entire mess, she looks genuinely remorseful instead of just scared. Maya, I'm sorry, I really am. I was so excited about the trip, and when Mom and Dad said they'd figured out how to make it happen, I wanted to believe it was okay. But you knew it wasn't. I knew it was complicated, but I told myself that if you really needed the money, you wouldn't have spent $300,000 on a guitar in the first place. That's not how property ownership works, Sofia. My financial decisions don't give you the right to steal from me. So I know that now. I study my sister's face, looking for signs of genuine understanding versus strategic remorse. What I see is mostly fear. Fear of criminal charges, fear of financial responsibility, fear of having to face adult consequences for the first time in her life. Sofia, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a real job, not another freelance, gig, or consulting role. You're going to work out a payment plan with my lawyer to reimburse your share of the stolen proceeds. And you're going to participate in family therapy to address whatever made you think this was acceptable. And if I do all that, you'll drop the charges. If you do all that, you'll avoid additional charges. The ones you're already facing will depend on how cooperative you are with restitution. Sofia wipes her eyes. What if I can't find a real job? The economy is tough and my resume has gaps. Then you'll work retail, food service, whatever it takes. Personal responsibility means doing what's necessary, not just what's convenient or comfortable. Maya, that's going to be really hard. For the first time in our conversation, I softened slightly. Sofia, do you know what was hard? Working 3 jobs through college while you were partying. Building a career while sending money home to help with family expenses. Sitting in a Tokyo hotel room at 3 a.m., realizing that my family had stolen my most precious possession while I was working to secure all our financial futures. She's quiet for a long moment. I never thought about it that way. I know that's part of the problem. What would you do if you were Maya? Rate her response 0-10. Is she being fair or too harsh? Sofia stands up to leave, then turns back. Maya, do you hate us now? The question catches me off guard because I've been so focused on boundaries and consequences that I haven't really examined my feelings. I don't hate you, Sofia, but I don't trust you. And right now, I don't particularly like you. Whether that changes depends on what you do next. What about mom and dad? The same answer. After she leaves, Luca and I sit in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, he asks, how are you feeling about all this? Like I'm finally awake after a really long sleep. Any second thoughts? About the legal consequences? No. About the family relationships? I consider this. I'm sad about what we were, but I'm hopeful about what we might become if everyone learns to respect boundaries. And if they don't, then I'll know where I stand, and I can stop wasting energy on people who see love as a license to take whatever they want. Luca nods. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this exactly right. Even though it's messy and painful, and probably going to get worse before it gets better. Especially because of that, the easy thing would be to swallow this, enable them, and pretend it didn't happen. But easy isn't the same as right. That night, I dream about Abuelo Miguel. In the dream, he's sitting in his workshop, carefully adjusting the strings on a beautiful guitar. When he looks up and sees me, he smiles. Mija, he says, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to make someone else's problems your own. But what if they hate me for it? Then they never loved you in the first place. They loved what you could do for them. I wake up feeling more at peace than I have in weeks. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a family therapist's office with my parents, Sofia, and Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a no-nonsense counselor who specializes in family systems and financial abuse. It's our 12th session, and the progress has been illuminating. The first few sessions were brutal. My family came in expecting Dr. Martinez to help them convince me to forgive and forget. Instead, she spent 3 hours explaining why theft between family members is actually more damaging than theft between strangers, because it violates trust, safety, and the basic assumption that home is a refuge. When family members steal from each other, she'd said during our 4th session, while mom cried and dad stared at the floor, they're not just taking property. They're communicating that the victim's feelings, boundaries, and autonomy don't matter. It's a profound violation of the relationship contract that defines family. Today's session is focused on accountability, specifically on my family's tendency to avoid taking full responsibility for their actions by focusing on my response instead. Carmen, Dr. Martinez says to my mother, you've mentioned several times that you're concerned about Maya's hardness in handling this situation. Can you explain what you mean by that? Mom shifts uncomfortably in her chair. She used to be so forgiving, so understanding. Now she's cold, calculating. It's like she doesn't care about family anymore. What would caring about family look like to you in this situation? She would understand that we made a mistake and give us a chance to make it right without all the legal complications. Dr. Martinez nods. Roberto, do you agree with that assessment? Dad clears his throat. Maya's always been the responsible one, the one who fixes things. I guess I expected her to fix this too. By fix this, you mean? Handle it privately, work out a payment plan between family members, not involve lawyers and courts and all this. Dr. Martinez turns to me. Maya, how do you respond to that? They're describing enabling, not fixing. What they wanted was for me to absorb the consequences of their choices so they wouldn't have to face them. Can you elaborate? They stole $285,000 from me and committed fraud against a business owner. The family-oriented solution they wanted was for me to quietly cover their debt, forgive the theft, and pretend it never happened so they could avoid criminal charges and financial hardship. And why didn't you choose that solution? Because it would have taught them that stealing from me has no real consequences, and it would have left Mr. Webb holding the bag for their fraud. Dr. Martinez looks at Sofia, who's been unusually quiet today. Sofia, what's your perspective on this? My sister has changed dramatically over the past 6 months. She found a job, finally, working as a coordinator for a nonprofit that provides financial literacy education to low-income families. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She's also been paying $1,200 per month toward her restitution, money that comes from the first steady paycheck she's had in years. I think Maya was right to hold us accountable, Sofia says quietly. I mean, I hated it at first. I was angry and felt like she was being cruel, but... But what? But I've learned more about myself in the past 6 months than I did in the previous 6 years. Having to get a real job, having to manage money responsibly, having to face what I did. It sucked, but it was necessary. Mom looks at Sofia like she's speaking a foreign language. Dr. Martinez presses on. What specifically did you learn? That I was entitled, that I expected other people, Maya, Mom, Dad, to solve my problems and fund my lifestyle. That I justified taking things that didn't belong to me because I convinced myself I deserved them. And how does that feel to acknowledge? Embarrassing, shameful, but also freeing, like I don't have to pretend anymore that my problems are everyone else's responsibility. This is the most self-aware I've ever heard Sofia sound. It gives me a tiny flicker of hope. Dr. Martinez turns back to my parents. Carmen, Roberto, I want you to listen carefully to what Sofia just shared. She's describing genuine accountability, acknowledging not just the action but the mindset that led to the action. How does that compare to the way you've been approaching this situation? Dad shifts uncomfortably. We've said we're sorry. What specifically are you sorry for? For taking the guitar without permission. Is that all? Dad looks confused. What else should we be sorry for? I can see Dr. Martinez's patience wearing thin. She's had this conversation with them multiple times. Roberto, let's break this down. You're sorry for taking the guitar without permission. What about planning the theft for weeks? What about waiting until Maya was out of the country? What about using her spare key to gain access? What about forging authentication documents? What about lying to Luca? What about committing fraud against Mr. Webb? What about using the stolen proceeds for Sofia's vacation? Each item hits like a physical blow. Mom starts crying again, but this time there's something different about her tears, less self-pity, more genuine remorse. We're sorry for all of it, she whispers. But Maya, we didn't mean for it to go this far. Stop, I interrupt. Dr. Martinez, this is exactly what I mean about avoiding accountability. Every time they apologize, they immediately add a but that minimizes their actions or transfers responsibility to someone else. Can you give me specific examples? We're sorry, but we didn't think you'd find out so quickly. We're sorry, but you spend money so carelessly. We're sorry, but Sofia really needed this opportunity. We're sorry, but we didn't expect you to involve lawyers. It's not real accountability if it comes with excuses. Dr. Martinez nods. Carmen, Roberto, do you understand what Maya is describing? Finally, Dad straightens up and looks directly at me. Maya, we were wrong. Not misguided, not confused, not pushed into a bad situation. We were wrong. We planned to steal from you because we thought we could get away with it, and because we'd convinced ourselves that your success somehow belonged to the whole family. Mom adds, through her tears, we were wrong to violate your trust, to use your spare key against you, to lie to Luca, and to fraud Mr. Webb. We were wrong to plan this while you were working in Tokyo. We were wrong to prioritize Sofia's wants over your property rights. It's the first time in 6 months that they've apologized without immediately justifying their actions. The relief I feel catches me off guard. Thank you, I say quietly. That's what I needed to hear. Dr. Martinez makes a note. How does it feel to give that apology? Dad looks exhausted but somehow lighter, like I finally stopped lying to myself. And Carmen's. Scary, Mom admits. If we were really that wrong, what does that say about us as parents, as people? What do you think it says? Mom is quiet for a long time. That we lost our way, that we started seeing Maya as a resource instead of as our daughter, that we failed her. The session continues, but something fundamental has shifted. For the first time since this whole mess started, I feel like I'm talking to my parents instead of talking to people wearing my parents' faces. After the session, we walk out to the parking lot together, something that hasn't happened in months. Maya, Dad says, I need to tell you something else. I brace myself. Your success, it intimidated us. You were so financially sophisticated, so independent, so capable. We started feeling like you didn't need us anymore, and instead of being proud of that, we resented it. Roberto, Mom starts. No, Carmen, she deserves to hear this. He turns back to me. We told ourselves that taking the guitar was about teaching you financial responsibility, but really it was about proving that we still had power over your life. The honesty is brutal and necessary. Dad, I've never wanted to cut you out of my life. I wanted to share my success with you, to take care of you the way you took care of me growing up. But I needed you to respect my boundaries while I did it. We understand that now, at least I think we do. Sofia, who's been listening to this conversation, adds, Maya, can I ask you something? And sure. Are we going to be okay, eventually? I consider the question seriously. I think we can be, not the same as we were before because that dynamic wasn't healthy, but something better maybe, something more honest. What would that look like? It would look like all of us taking responsibility for our own lives and choices. It would look like asking for help instead of taking what we want. It would look like respecting each other's autonomy instead of treating family like a free-for-all. Mom wipes her eyes. That sounds lonely. Mom, it's the opposite of lonely. Right now, I can't trust you because I never know when you're going to decide that loving me gives you the right to steal from me. But if you learn to respect boundaries, then I can let my guard down and actually be close to you. 3 months after that breakthrough session, the legal aspects of the case are finally resolved. My parents pled guilty to theft charges and received 18 months probation plus community service. The restitution payments are on schedule. They sold their house, downsized to a rental apartment, and Dad took a part-time job to supplement their income. Marcus Webb was gracious throughout the entire process and has since become an unexpected friend. Turns out he's a jazz guitarist himself, and when I finally showed him the real Esperanza, he nearly wept. Maya, this is extraordinary. Your grandfather would be so proud. He would have been proud of you for handling this situation with such integrity, I replied. Not everyone would have been so understanding about the fraud. In my experience, family theft usually comes from desperation or entitlement. Your family was dealing with entitlement, which is fixable with the right consequences. Desperation is harder. Those people need help, not punishment. Marcus also introduced me to a community of serious collectors and musicians that I never knew existed. Through them, I've started playing again, not just collecting, but actually making music. Esperanza sounds as beautiful as I always imagined she would. What would you do if you were in Maya's shoes now? Rate her journey from 0 to 10. Do you think she handled everything right? The most surprising change has been with Sofia. Her job at the financial literacy nonprofit has turned into genuine passion. She's discovered that she has a talent for explaining complex financial concepts to people who have never had access to that education. She's also enrolled in community college to get her accounting certification. Maya, she told me over coffee last month, I never realized how much I didn't know about money. I thought budgeting was something only poor people had to worry about, and I thought you were just naturally good with finances. I didn't understand that you studied, practiced, and made sacrifices to build those skills. Are you happier now? Weirdly, yes. I mean, I'm broke most of the time because of the restitution payments, and I have to think before I spend money on anything. But I also feel proud of myself for the first time in years. I'm earning my own way, solving my own problems. That's all I ever wanted for you. I know that now. I also know I have about 2 more years of restitution payments before I'm clear of this mess. Are you going to make it? Yeah, I am, and Maya, when I'm done paying you back, I want to start saving for my own guitar. The family therapy continues, though now it's more focused on building new patterns than processing the theft. We've learned to have conversations about money, boundaries, and expectations that would have been impossible a year ago. Mom and Dad are adjusting to their new reality: smaller living space, tighter budget, less financial influence over their adult daughters. But they also seem more relaxed, like they're no longer carrying the weight of maintaining an unsustainable lifestyle. Maya, Mom said during our last family dinner, I need to apologize for something else. What's that? For all the years we made you feel responsible for our financial security, it wasn't fair to put that pressure on you. I didn't mind helping when I could afford it and when it was asked for instead of taken. But we started expecting it instead of appreciating it. We treated your success like it was partly ours instead of celebrating it as entirely yours. Dad nodded, and when you spent money on something we didn't understand, we felt like you were being wasteful with family resources instead of your own money. The guitar represented everything we didn't understand about you, Mom continued. Your independence, your different values, your connection to Abuelo that we never shared. Taking it was like trying to force you back into being someone we could control. These conversations are hard, but they're also healing in ways I didn't expect. The guitar itself, the real Esperanza, now lives in a climate-controlled display case in my apartment, next to a photo of Abuelo Miguel in his workshop. But I take her out regularly to play, and the music we make together feels like a conversation across generations. Luca and I have also grown closer through this experience. Watching him stand by me while my own family betrayed me clarified something important about chosen family versus biological family. Maya, he said one evening while I was playing Esperanza and he was working on his own guitar, I want you to know that what happened with your family didn't just show me who they are, it showed me who you are. What do you mean? You could have handled this emotionally, dramatically, vengefully. Instead, you handled it like the strong, principled woman I fell in love with. You set boundaries, enforced consequences, and never lost sight of what was actually important. Which was what? Teaching people who love you that love requires respect. That's not cruel, Maya, that's courageous. 6 months later, I get a call that changes everything again. Maya, this is Marcus Webb. Hi, Marcus, what's up? I have a proposition for you. There's an estate sale coming up, a collector in California who's liquidating his entire vintage guitar collection. He has instruments that would make your Esperanza jealous. Marcus, I appreciate the heads up, but I'm not really in the market for. Maya, hear me out. I'm putting together an investment group to purchase the entire collection and create a traveling museum exhibit. We need someone with your financial background to structure the deal and manage the business side. I sit up straighter. This sounds interesting. What kind of investment are we talking about? About $2.5 million for the full collection. The touring exhibit could be profitable, but more importantly, it would make these instruments accessible to people who could never otherwise see them. How many investors? 6, including you. Your financial expertise would be essential, and your reputation for integrity in handling the situation with your family has gotten around the collector community. I think about Abuelo Miguel, about all the young musicians who could be inspired by seeing these legendary instruments, about turning my passion into something that serves others. Send me the details. Within 3 months, I've left Henderson and Associates to start my own firm specializing in alternative investments and arts funding. The Guitar Museum project becomes my flagship venture, combining financial expertise with cultural preservation. The traveling exhibit opens a year later in New York, featuring 43 vintage guitars including 3 1959 Les Pauls, 2 pre-war Martins, and instruments that belong to blues legends whose names are etched in music history. At the opening night gala, my entire family attends, something that would have been unimaginable 2 years ago. Mija, Mom says, standing in front of a display case containing a 1936 Martin D28. Your grandfather would be so proud of what you've built. We're all proud, Dad adds, and for the first time in years, I believe he means it without qualification or expectation. Sofia, now working as the exhibit's financial education coordinator, a role I created specifically for her, gives tour to school groups, explaining not just the history of the instruments but the financial principles behind collecting, preserving, and sharing cultural artifacts. Maya, she tells a group of middle school students, my sister taught me that when you really want something, you don't take it, you earn it. And when you earn something through your own work, it means more than anything that's just given to you. The exhibit travels to 12 cities in its first year, inspiring thousands of young musicians and raising money for music education programs in underserved communities. But the real success isn't measured in profit margins or attendance numbers. 2 years after that 3 a.m. phone call in Tokyo, I'm sitting in Abuelo Miguel's old workshop, now converted into a music room in my new house, playing Esperanza, while Luca works on a song he's writing for the museum's second traveling exhibit. The house itself is a symbol of how much has changed. It's not huge or ostentatious, but it has space for music, art, and the kind of entertaining that brings people together around shared passions instead of obligations. My family visits regularly now, but the dynamic is completely different. They ask before coming over. They respect my boundaries. They contribute to conversations instead of just expecting me to solve their problems. Mom has started taking guitar lessons, something she never showed interest in when Abuelo was alive, but which she now approaches with genuine curiosity about the musical heritage she never understood. Maya, she told me last month, I'm starting to hear what you hear in these instruments, not just the financial value, but the soul of them. Dad has found unexpected fulfillment in his part-time work at a local music store, where his insurance background helps with instrument appraisals, and his newfound respect for boundaries has made him surprisingly good at customer service. I like helping people find instruments they can actually afford, he said recently. It's honest work, and I get to learn about music without pretending to expertise I don't have. But the biggest change has been in Sofia. She completed her accounting certification and has been promoted twice at the nonprofit. More importantly, she's learned to find satisfaction in work that serves others rather than just herself. Maya, she said during our last sister lunch, I've been thinking about what you said 2 years ago, about how love without respect is just possession. What about it? I think I spent most of my life trying to be possessed by other people, by mom and dad, by boyfriends, even by you in a weird way. I wanted to be taken care of instead of taking care of myself. Then now I understand that being responsible for my own life doesn't mean I have to be alone. It means I can choose my relationships from a position of strength instead of need. She's dating someone now, a teacher she met through the nonprofit who shares her newfound commitment to meaningful work. They split expenses, support each other's goals, and seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company rather than using each other as solutions to personal problems. The legal consequences of the theft have been fully resolved. My parents completed their community service by volunteering at financial literacy workshops, a form of poetic justice that wasn't lost on anyone. The restitution payments are ahead of schedule, and Marcus Webb has become such a good friend that he's now an unofficial advisor to the museum project. But the emotional resolution took longer and required more work than any of us anticipated. Family therapy continued for 18 months, evolving from crisis intervention to genuine family systems work. Dr. Martinez helped us understand that the theft wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of years of unhealthy patterns around money, success, boundaries, and what family members owe each other. The theft was a symptom, she explained during one of our final sessions, of a family system that had never learned to balance individual autonomy with collective support. What does that mean in practical terms? I'd asked. It means learning the difference between helping and enabling, between supporting family members and sacrificing yourself for them, between love and control. Those distinctions, which seem obvious in theory, turned out to be incredibly difficult to implement in practice. It meant having conversations about money that made everyone uncomfortable. It meant acknowledging that my financial success had created power imbalances that none of us knew how to navigate. It meant accepting that good intentions don't excuse harmful actions. Most importantly, it meant learning that real love, the kind that lasts and nurtures and empowers, requires respect for each other's autonomy, even when that autonomy leads to choices we don't understand or agree with. I learned things too. I learned that my tendency to solve other people's problems, while well-intentioned, sometimes prevented them from developing their own problem-solving skills. I learned that financial generosity without clear boundaries can create resentment on both sides. I learned that being the successful one in a family comes with responsibilities, but also with the right to protect my own interests. Most surprisingly, I learned that standing up for myself didn't destroy my family, it saved it. The version of our family that existed before the theft was built on unspoken expectations, financial dependencies, and the assumption that my success was somehow communal property. It felt close, but it wasn't sustainable or honest. The family we've built since then is smaller, more careful, more intentional. We see each other less frequently, but the time we spend together is more meaningful. We ask for help instead of taking it. We respect each other's choices even when we don't understand them. We've learned to have difficult conversations instead of avoiding them until they explode into crises. It's not the family I grew up in, but it's better than the family I grew up in. Esperanza herself has become something more than a guitar or even a symbol. She's become a reminder that some things are worth protecting, that boundaries aren't walls but foundations, and that honoring the past doesn't require sacrificing the future. I play her regularly now, something I was almost afraid to do when I first bought her, as if she were too precious for actual music. But instruments are meant to be played, dreams are meant to be lived, and the love that Abuelo Miguel put into his work was always meant to be shared. Sometimes when I'm playing, especially late at night when the house is quiet, I swear I can feel his presence in the room. Not in a supernatural way, but in the way that love echoes across generations when we honor the dreams of those who came before us. Mija, I can almost hear him saying, "You didn't just save the guitar, you saved yourself." Rate this story 0-10. Did Maya make the right choices? What would you have done differently? The business has grown beyond anything I imagined. We now have 3 traveling exhibits, a permanent gallery in Nashville, and partnerships with music schools across the country. I've hired a team of curators, educators, and financial specialists who share the vision of making musical heritage accessible to everyone, not just collectors who can afford $300,000 guitars. Last month, a 12-year-old girl from Detroit stood in front of Esperanza's display case for 20 minutes, studying every detail of the instrument. When I approached her, she looked up with tears in her eyes. "My grandpa played guitar," she said quietly. "He died before I was born, but my mom says he would have loved this." I showed her how the pickups were positioned, explained the unique characteristics of the 1959 model, and told her about the legendary musicians who had played instruments just like this one. Then, I did something that would have horrified the collector in me 2 years ago. I opened the case and let her touch the strings. The sound that came from Esperanza when that little girl's fingers found the frets was pure magic. Not technically perfect, not professionally executed, but full of wonder and possibility, and the kind of joy that money can't buy. "Would you like to learn to play?" I asked her. Her face lit up but then fell. "My mom says lessons are too expensive." "What if I told you we have a scholarship program for young musicians?" That scholarship program, funded partly by the museum's profits and partly by my personal contributions, has become one of the most rewarding aspects of the business. We've provided instruments and lessons to over 200 kids whose families couldn't otherwise afford them. Some of those kids will become professional musicians. Others will play for the joy of it, or use music as a way to connect with family history, or simply carry forward the understanding that art and beauty matter in ways that can't be measured in dollars. All of them will learn what I learned from Abuelo Miguel, that some dreams are worth any sacrifice, and that honoring those dreams means sharing them with others. 3 months ago, I got a call that brought everything full circle. Maya, it's Marcus. I have something I think you'd be interested in. What's that? Remember the original owner of Esperanza, the jazz musician whose estate we bought her from? Of course. Well, his granddaughter just contacted me. She's been going through her family's papers and found something she thinks belongs with the guitar. What kind of something? Original sheet music, handwritten compositions that her grandfather wrote specifically for that guitar. Apparently, he composed them during the same period he owned Esperanza, and some of them have notes in the margins about how specific passages were meant to be played on that particular instrument. My hands started trembling. Marcus, are you telling me there's original music written specifically for Esperanza? That's exactly what I'm telling you. The granddaughter wants to donate the compositions to the museum, but she has one condition. What's that? She wants them to be played, not just displayed, but actually performed on the guitar they were written for. The first concert featuring Esperanza and her original compositions was held 6 months later in the museum's Nashville gallery. I'd spent weeks learning the pieces, complex, beautiful jazz compositions that seemed to unlock new voices in the instrument. My entire family was there, sitting in the front row with expressions of pride and amazement that would have been impossible 2 years earlier. But the moment that mattered most came after the performance, when a young man approached me with tears in his eyes. Ms. Alvarez, that was incredible. I'm a music student, and hearing those compositions played on the original instrument, it's like you brought history to life. What's your name? David Chen. I'm studying jazz guitar at Berkeley. Something about his passion, his reverence for the music, reminded me of myself at his age, hungry for connection to something larger than myself, desperate to understand how art and history and beauty all fit together. David, would you like to learn one of these pieces? On that guitar, I couldn't, I'd be too nervous. The guitar doesn't exist to sit in a case, I told him, echoing something Abuelo Miguel used to say. It exists to make music. I spent the next hour teaching David the opening passages of one of the compositions, watching his confidence grow as he realized that Esperanza, for all her value and history, was ultimately just an instrument that wanted to be played. Ms. Alvarez, he said as he was leaving, thank you for this opportunity, but also, thank you for showing me that it's possible to honor something's value while still sharing it with others. That night, driving home from the concert, Luca reached over and took my hand. Maya, I need to tell you something. What's that? 2 years ago, when your family stole the guitar, I was worried that you'd become bitter, that all the legal battles and family drama would change you in ways that couldn't be undone. And instead, you became more yourself than you'd ever been. Stronger, clearer, more generous in the ways that actually matter. I learned the difference between being generous and being exploited. But you also learned that protecting yourself doesn't mean closing yourself off. This museum, the scholarships, tonight's concert, you're sharing your passion with more people than you ever could have if you just kept the guitar in your apartment. He was right. The theft that was meant to diminish me had ultimately expanded my life in ways I never could have imagined. We pull into our driveway, and I sit for a moment looking at our house. The music room where Esperanza lives, the office where I plan exhibitions and manage scholarships, the dining room where my family gathers for meals that are now comfortable instead of tense. Luca, do you think I did the right thing? All of it, the legal consequences, the therapy, the boundaries. Maya, look around. Your parents have learned to respect you. Sofia has built a life she's proud of. You've created something beautiful that serves others. And most importantly, you've learned that love doesn't require martyrdom. What does it require? Respect, trust, the courage to expect better from the people who claim to love you. Inside the house, I check my phone and find a text from Sofia. Maya, that concert was incredible. I'm so proud of what you've built. Also, I made my final restitution payment today. I'm officially debt-free for the first time in my adult life. Thank you for teaching me what that feels like. I text back, I'm proud of you too. Want to have lunch next week? Yes, and Maya, I love you. The real you, not the version who used to fix everything for everyone. I love you too, Sofia, the real you. 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days after that 3 a.m. phone call in Tokyo, I'm finally exactly where I'm supposed to be. In my own home, surrounded by music and art and relationships built on mutual respect, living a life that honors both my grandfather's dreams and my own boundaries. The woman who let her family walk all over her because she thought that's what love looked like is gone. In her place is someone who understands that the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable other people's worst impulses. Some people might call that harsh, I call it healthy. Some people might say I chose my guitar over my family. I say I chose self-respect over dysfunction, and in doing so, I saved my family from themselves. The guitar itself, beautiful, valuable, historically significant Esperanza, sits in her climate-controlled case, ready for tomorrow's lesson with a teenage prodigy whose family scraped together enough money for 1 month of instruction and discovered that their daughter has a gift that deserves nurturing. But she's more than just an instrument now. She's a reminder that some things are worth protecting, that boundaries aren't barriers but bridges to healthier relationships, and that the dreams we inherit from previous generations are only meaningful if we have the courage to live them authentically. I think about that scared, angry woman in the Tokyo hotel room, reading bank alerts and voice messages that revealed her family's ultimate betrayal. I want to tell her that the pain she's feeling will transform into something powerful, that the family she thinks she's losing will be rebuilt into something stronger, and that standing up for herself won't make her alone. It will teach her the difference between being alone and being independent. Most of all, I want to tell her that Abuelo Miguel's dream isn't just about owning a guitar. It's about understanding that art and beauty and music matter, that dreams deferred don't have to become dreams denied, and that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just emotional manipulation with a prettier name. The theft was the worst thing that happened to me, and the best thing that happened to my family. It taught us all that boundaries aren't cruel, they're necessary. That consequences aren't punishment, they're education. And that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to make someone else's problems your own. 2 years later, I can honestly say that I'm grateful for every painful moment of this experience. Not because I enjoyed it, but because it forced all of us to become better versions of ourselves. My parents learned to respect their adult daughter's autonomy. Sofia learned to take responsibility for her own life. I learned that protecting myself doesn't make me selfish, it makes me sustainable. And Esperanza, she learned that her purpose isn't to sit safely in a case, admired but untouched. Her purpose is to make music, teach lessons, inspire dreams, and connect generations of people who understand that some things are worth protecting not because they're valuable, but because they're meaningful. Tonight, after everyone has gone home and the house is quiet, I'll take her out of her case and play the songs that Abuelo Miguel hummed while he worked in his shop. Not perfectly, not professionally, but with love and gratitude, and the deep satisfaction that comes from finally understanding what it means to honor the past without sacrificing the future. Some dreams are worth any sacrifice, but the biggest sacrifice is often the willingness to stop sacrificing yourself for people who mistake your kindness for weakness. I made that sacrifice 2 years ago in a hotel room in Tokyo, and I've never regretted it for a single day. What would you rate this story? 0-10? And tell me honestly, do you think Maya was too harsh on her family or not harsh enough? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, comment your city and let me know. What's the most valuable thing you own that represents more than just money? And what would you do if your family betrayed your trust the way Maya's did? Sometimes the people who claim to love us the most are the ones who feel most entitled to our boundaries. Maya's story shows us that real love requires respect, and that teaching people to respect us isn't cruel, it's necessary. What do you think? Was this justice or revenge? Rate the story 0-10 and let me know what you would have done in Maya's situation.